Happy Sunday, folks. Graham, GSM Matthews here. Hope you guys are enjoying your weekend. I think we're live here. I think we've been live on here for the last couple seconds. I've been trying the last couple minutes to get this thing set up. Bit of a out-of-nowhere live stream here today. I don't ordinarily live stream here on YouTube. I really don't. I think the only other two times we've done it was for hashtag AskGSM episode 200 and then episode 300 just a couple weeks ago. And I said a couple weeks ago I would love to do another live stream. I mean, albeit schedule in advance. But you know what? I was feeling random today. I thought I would go live on YouTube to discuss our experience, Alexis and I's experience, meeting Johnny Gargano and Candice Lerae at Friday's Evolve show in Brooklyn, New York, as well as my thoughts on Glow. I actually just finished, not the entire show, but the entire show up to this point, season 3 after maybe 3 weeks. I think Alexis and I started watching it when we got back from Chicago a few weeks ago, and we just finished it yesterday, and honestly, I'm not impressed. I was not impressed with season 3, at least not as much as I was with seasons 1 and 2. So I'll talk more about that in a little bit. I got a couple things on my mind here between the Evolve show on Friday, Glow Season 3. I read a rumor yesterday that Raw and SmackDown are getting new sets, which is really fucking cool. I'll talk more about that in a couple minutes. But yeah, no real reason to go live here on YouTube today other than the fact that I just was feeling random. So that's why another reason why you should be subscribed here to the channel. You never know when I'll be going live. It could be on a Wednesday for hashtag AskGSM. It could be on a random-ass Sunday like today. You never know when I'll go live on YouTube. So all the more reason to subscribe here to the channel, like the video, drop comments, join in on the feed, share the videos. All that stuff is greatly appreciated. We have content pretty much going up every single day of the week. And if it's not a live stream, we always have Wrestle Rant videos going up, my reviews of old pay-per-views I watch on the network and other platforms, WWE Network and Chill reviewing Straight Up Steve Austin, Table for 3, Total Divas coming back next week, Miz and Mrs., and all those type of shows. We have Wrestle Rant Radio excerpts, old episodes of Wrestle Rant Radio from years ago you can now listen to on YouTube. Plenty more content right here on the channel, and of course, hashtag AskGSM. So subscribe today for all that new content every single day of the week. But yeah, on Friday, we met Johnny Gargano, which was super amazing. I think we're live here, by the way. It's telling me here in the studio that we're not. So I think we still are. Hopefully it's been consistent and it's not fucking up. So it says we've been live now for 30 seconds. I know we've been live longer than that, so I'm not really sure why it's saying that. It says that YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. So if that's an issue, I apologize. This is really just kind of a test run here to see if the live stream works, at least on my end. It did for hashtag 300 up until I lost internet. So I'm not really sure what's going on, but hopefully if this doesn't work, let's say YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. As such, viewers will experience buffering. I apologize for that. If you guys are experiencing the buffering, I apologize. Hopefully, this is all set in stone once I end the stream in a little while, and then when people listen to it on the in the archives, it won't have this issue. But nonetheless, as I said earlier, we did go to Evolve 135 on Friday in Brooklyn, New York. Alexis and I. Great time. We were actually just in New York a week and a half ago for Monday Night Raw at Madison Square Garden. So it was our first time back in NYC in about a week and a half. And I mean, I don't love going to New York. I do enjoy going there for the occasional wrestling show, but going there twice in 1 month was crazy. And we will be back at some point in the foreseeable future for Ringside Fest. We've been to so much shit in the last couple months. All of my doing, by the way. All of these events were all my ideas. And in the sense that we've been doing a lot of traveling. A lot of great places we've gone. We went to Massachusetts last week for the Big E Festival to see Skillet in concert. We were at New York a couple days ago for Evolve. We were there for Raw about a week and a half ago at MSG in Citi Field as well. We were in Chicago 3 weeks ago. I was in London 2 months ago. It's been a real crazy past couple months, but in the best way possible. But yeah, we went to Brooklyn for Evolve on Friday. I found out about the show not too long ago, actually. I saw it was advertised I don't know, shortly after we got back from Chicago, I believe. It really wasn't that long ago when I found out we were both free on that day. So I said, fuck it, let's check it out. And if it was just a normal Evolve show, I probably would not have gone out of my way to go to the show. Just because we've gone to a lot of shows, a lot of events in the past couple of months. We went to a couple Northeast wrestling shows and stuff like that. So if these people weren't on the show, I probably would not have gone. But when I saw Johnny Gargano advertised, I'm thinking, okay, we gotta go. We gotta go check out this show because Johnny Gargano is Alexis's favorite wrestler. She started watching with me full time about a little over a year ago. And she saw Johnny in NXT for the first time almost exactly a year ago in that match with Tony Nese on NXT TV. And he just captivated her imagination from day one, and he became her favorite wrestler within no time. So as soon as I saw him advertised for that Evolve show, I knew we had to go. I knew we had to go check it out. And especially since it was only in New York. It was in Brooklyn. We've been to Brooklyn before for, Barclays and stuff like that. Never this part of Brooklyn. It was at a place called St. Finbar Catholic Church in a gym. So I was a little like, I have no idea where this is, but we'll make it work. It's Johnny freaking Gargano. I have no idea when we'll get this opportunity to meet him again. Why not go? Why not check it out? We're both free that day. Let's go to the show. Let's go fucking meet Johnny Wrestling. Johnny freaking Gargano, okay? So, got the tickets to the show just a couple days before we went. We got there. It was really, we usually cut it close because we're usually busy in the morning, afternoon, whatever. But we got there, we left here in Connecticut. We took the train into Grand Central. That took about 2 hours. Took about an hour to get where we, the train station here in Connecticut. There's a couple different ones, but to the one that we were most comfortable with, it took about an hour to get there, a 2-hour train ride, and then another hour on the subway. So about a 4-hour commute. If I drove, it would have taken 2 hours, but it didn't really look like there was much parking there anyway. It's New York City. So you really take your chances when it comes to stuff like that, when it comes to, parking and shit like that. So we decided to commute it, go on the subway, and it actually worked out wonderfully. We found our way there. No real issues. Walked over to the gym, the Catholic, whatever the hell this thing was, this Catholic church gym. We see the long line of wrestling fans waiting on the outside. We arrived with plenty of time to spare before the meet and greet was supposed to start. The meet and greet did not start until 7:30, I would say, 7:20. It was pretty late, and I got caught waiting in line with Alexis. The fans in back of the line, or in back of us in line, were very nice. It was a man with his girlfriend that were probably around our age, and they were really nice. Unfortunately, the guy in front of me, and if you go back and watch the show, you could probably see him on the show, because he's the only guy standing up for the better part of the show wearing a fucking cowboy hat. He was wearing a Young Buck shirt, and maybe he goes to these type of shows all the time. I don't know. He's a New York wrestling fan. He was talking to me in line for no less than a half an hour, and I felt really bad just, turning my back or whatever, but I probably should have done it sooner because I got caught in one of those situations where I couldn't stop talking to this guy. And I say talking to him, but really he was the one that was talking to me. And I hate to say this, but it's very hit or miss with wrestling fans when you go to wrestling shows. Sometimes you get caught in line, in line with these fans in front of you and back of you that are very nice, that are very similar to you, similar opinions on certain things, very intelligent, and, intelligent, that's not even a fucking word, intelligent, I was going to say intelligible, I don't even know if that's a word, intelligent, cool, enjoyable wrestling fans. Unfortunately, we had that with the fans in back of us in line, not in front of us. I got stuck in back of this guy that, showed up alone. He was probably in his late 30s, early 40s. It was hard to tell, to be honest with you. Lives in New York because he said he tries to go to all the New York wrestling shows, even though he was not at WrestleMania or any of those shows. I was like, oh, did you go to Raw? Did you go to TakeOver? Did you go to any of those shows? Because they were in Brooklyn all weekend for WrestleMania 35 weekend. And we live in Connecticut. Okay, and I told him that. And I said, he's like, oh, what brings you to Evolve? And I said, oh, we're from Connecticut. We're here to meet Johnny Gargano. He's like, Johnny Gargano? He's at the show. I'm like, yeah, why else would you be here? And he wasn't one of those fans who was familiar with Evolve, that knew any of the talent. He knew nothing about the Evolve roster. And to be fair, neither do I. I know Austin Theory. I know Josh Briggs. I know Anthony Green and some people like that. Sean Maluda, obviously. Not Sean Kingston. What's his name? Eddie Kingston. Sean Kingston. I don't really know much of the roster either, but I wanted to go to check out the roster because I know Evolve always delivers from what I heard. And I knew Johnny Gargano would be at the show, and Candice Lerae, and Tommaso Ciampa, Walter, Cassius Ono, people like that. And I really wanted to meet Walter. I'll get to that in a second. And Ono and Gargano for Alexis and Candice, who I've never met before. But this guy had no idea that any of these NXT superstars were at the show. I guess he just went because he knew it was wrestling. I don't know how you know the show is going on without finding out, hey, Johnny Gargano will be at this show. I don't know what rock this guy was living under, but it was quite the experience. And because I'm one of those people that can't really be rude unless it's like if the guy was harmless. He wasn't being an asshole. He was just, talking my ear off about all these nonsensical things. He had the audacity to say that Eric Rowan, along with, I think he said maybe Roman Reigns, which makes sense, but Eric Rowan was one of the few people who could realistically beat Brock Lesnar. And I started laughing at a few different points when he was talking to me because just some of the stuff he was saying was so, it was just crazy. I don't know if it's the right word to use here. It was just so stupid. But, I felt bad for the guy, and, and people in line really just wanted him to shut the fuck up, and so did I, because I felt like I aged 10 years in talking to this one guy. But we were in line for about a half an hour, 45 minutes before they finally, mercifully opened the doors to the event. And it was perfect. I mean, it probably seated about 100 people, if that. There was no seats in this arena. It was absolutely a Catholic church. You could tell it was like a bingo hall in there. And I mean, if you watch the show back on WWEN Live or whatever the services that they offer these shows on, you can tell there's really not many people there at all. But for the price of the ticket and the people they had on the card, it was a steal of a deal. We got to meet Johnny Gargano, so he was the first person that we got to meet, along with Candice. And Ciampa was there too, but I was also meeting Walter and Cassius Ono. So I didn't really want to spend the money to meet Ciampa, just because I've already met him and Gargano before. I met them as DIY about 3 years ago at a Chaotic Wrestling show in Massachusetts. I think in Lowell. Massachusetts, about 3 years ago. And, I mean, obviously I wanted to meet him again here because so much has changed in those 3 years. And obviously we were meeting him for Alexis, who has never met him before, and he's her favorite wrestler. So anyway, we get straight in line for Johnny Gargano. We wait about maybe 5 minutes before we finally meet him. And you got to maximize your minutes, and I did that. I did exactly that when we met CM Punk a few weeks ago, because CM Punk is my Johnny Gargano to Alexis. CM Punk is my favorite wrestler. William Regal is really my favorite number one, but CM Punk is probably the biggest inspiration I've ever had in wrestling. So I needed to maximize those minutes, and thankfully, a lot like the CM Punk meet and greet a few weeks ago in Chicago, thankfully, a lot like that, we also had the chance to really just stand there and talk to Johnny and not have anyone rush us through. Now, granted, the show was set to start a half hour later. There were plenty of people in line, and I don't think they wrapped up the line until after the event already started at 8 o'clock p.m. But Johnny, Candice, we got to meet them both at the same time. Ciampa, I got to talk to while we were talking to Johnny, so technically I got to meet him again, although he was not in the picture as you see here. But you really got to maximize your minutes. Now, when you're at Access and stuff like that, they really rush you through, and I get it. Like, you don't want to be rude, you don't want to take up the people's time, but you got to pick and choose what you want to say wisely, because this might be your one opportunity to meet that person. You might think to yourself, oh, fuck, I should have said this while I was there, or said how much you meant to me, whatever. And, people freeze up. Alexis was going to freeze up. That's what she was worried about. But I'm like, listen, I'll do all the talking. I'll, get us in there. I'll start out the conversation, and then we'll just go from there. And I really maximized their minutes to the point where I felt bad, but Johnny was so fucking nice. And it's definitely up there on Friday. It's definitely up there as one of my favorite wrestling interactions I've ever had. And I said the same thing about the CM Punk one a couple weeks ago, because he was so fucking cool. And obviously that meant more just because I've been a fan of his longer, and he's meant so much to me personally. But this one has got to come close. Him, Punk, and Matt Hardy are probably the three nicest wrestlers I've ever met. Punk, Matt Hardy, Tommy Dreamer's another one, and Johnny Gargano, and Candice. She was really sweet as well. But, I mentioned how he really got Alexis into NXT. He was her favorite wrestler, and how he said, or rather Alexis said on Twitter about a month ago, that she wanted nothing more than to meet Johnny Gargano. And a month later, we literally made that come true. Not a year later, not even 6 months, a literal month later, after she had tweeted that, we got to meet Johnny freaking Gargano. And he was like, oh, that's so cool. And he hugged her as soon as we met him. And then I brought up the Avengers stuff and how I love the Iron Man gear and how we were there at TakeOver New York earlier this year when he won the NXT Championship. We were in the building for that. And I'm sure many of those people were because we were in fucking New York for this show, and that was in New York too. But still, it was in the same fucking city. That was in Brooklyn as well. But anyway, I mentioned that. I mentioned how, they were big fans of the Avengers movies. I asked him which he thought was better. Avengers Endgame or Avengers Infinity War. He said he saw Infinity War more in Endgame, and even Candice brought up seeing Infinity War where there was more interactions in between your favorite characters. And these are all for the Marvel people out there. This is for all the Marvel people that know what I'm talking about, are fans of the Avengers movies and stuff like that, all the Marvel movies of the MCU. But he was really fucking cool. He was like, oh, it was really cool to see all my favorite characters in one place, but Endgame will always hold a very special place in my heart, which I can absolutely relate to. I think Endgame might be my second favorite movie of all time. I don't think Back to the Future will ever be topped, but Endgame comes close. It was that fucking good. And I told him that, hey, I saw the movie in theaters 6 times. And he was impressed, and he saw the movie, I think, in theaters twice or 3 times, one of the two. I think it was 3. But he was impressed. Candice was impressed as well. I also brought up how I read his article from Sports Illustrated that he wrote on Endgame a couple months ago, and he was really, appreciative of that. But yeah, we also talked about Disney World. I mean, that's probably the last thing that you would think would be brought up when you're meeting a fucking professional wrestler, let alone someone on the, on the platform, on the level of NXT with Johnny and Candice. But we are standing there talking to them about fucking Disney World and about how they go to Disney World all the time and we would love to go there, and we were talking about how hopefully they can incorporate the Marvel rides into Disney at some point. And even Ciampa chimed in at one point because he was standing right there and he said, yeah, we go to Disney all the time. We go there like twice a week. I basically live there. And I said, oh, didn't you go there with Kevin Owens recently? Because I saw the picture on Twitter, and he goes, I'm there like every day. I'm there all the time. And all 3 of them, I guess, go. Candice, Johnny, and Ciampa. And I could see Kevin Owens being, involved in that group too, which is so funny. That's such a funny visual. Like seeing all 4 of them on like Space Mountain together. That's amazing. But yeah, so they were talking about that and how they always go. We got to go check it out. They got the Halloween stuff up right now, and it was really cool. So again, we were there talking, maybe not 5 minutes, but it was definitely a few minutes. Definitely longer than it should have been, but again, they were really nice. Did not rush us through. We got that great picture with Candice, Alexis, myself, and Johnny. And it was really cool. They were both really fucking nice. So if you ever have the opportunity to meet Johnny Gargano, Candice Lerae, even Tommaso Ciampa, don't miss out on an opportunity. They are so nice, and I'm so glad we went. We could have left right there, and it would have been worth it. But obviously, I had also paid to meet Walter and Candice Ono, so we met them as well. Walter, we didn't really obviously have as much of an interaction with Walter and Ono as we did Gargano and Candice. Even though the line was longer for Johnny. But Walter was really nice. He let me hold the United Kingdom Championship title. Let's see if I could pull that up here. It was a really cool picture. Maybe not. I don't know where it is on my computer, but the picture's on my Twitter if you want to check it out, and on my Facebook page as well. But yeah, Walter was really cool. We got to meet him. He got, like I said, let me hold the championship title. Alexis said before we even went up to Walter, she was like, wow, he's like fucking intimidating as shit. And I'm like, I know, like the guy looks like he's about to eat me for breakfast. But and I said that to him and he laughed. And I said I loved your match with Tyler Bate, loved your appearance in NXT's episode on USA, the premiere on Wednesday last week, and loved your matches in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. The fucking usual shtick. Where I run down their long list of accomplishments and how I'm a big fan of all of them, which I am, because I'm such a mark at the end of the day. But Walter was really cool. Cassius was really cool. We were talking to him briefly about the British Rounds match that he had with Sid Scala on this week's NXT UK. And I said, it was a really good match. And he was like, yeah, the crowd, hopefully, if we do more of them, hopefully we get to do more of them in the future when the crowd kind of warms up to it. And yeah, he said he had been, petitioning, he had been lobbying for a British Rounds match. ever since the start of the NXT UK brand about a year and a half ago. So it's cool to see that it finally materialized on this past week's show with him and Sid Scala. But that was a good match. And Ono is doing such great work right now that's not being talked about enough. If you don't watch NXT UK, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about. But Ono is great, and I know, he may not be the same wrestler he was even a few years ago, which I still think he is, if in the right environment and with the right opponent. But still, the guy can go out there and tell a great story. He's been a great heel in NXT UK for the past couple of months. I've really enjoyed his matches with a number of people. I think he might have been feuding with Travis Banks for a while. And it was either Banks or he had a couple good matches with Jack Gallagher, Ilya Dragunov. They had a very good match a couple weeks ago, about a month or two ago. But I've been loving his work in NXT UK, and he's another guy. If you have the chance to meet him, absolutely go and do it because he's great as well. The Evolve show itself was a lot of fun. It was my first time at an Evolve show, believe it or not. I think they were in East Haven, Connecticut.